a TV writer, and I've put together this webinar today to tell you about the 25 things that I wish I had known and wish some other people had known when I was starting out in Los Angeles. Now, this path is how I got from being a recent college graduate in the Midwest to pursuing a career in TV writing, TV drama writing. But even if you don't want to be a writer, if you want to do something else in the entertainment industry, I think there are a lot of these tips that will be helpful for you, and you can just get past the parts that are just about writing. And even if you've been here for a couple years, or you're in another career but you're in Los Angeles and you're thinking about moving this direction, I think you can make these things apply to what you are looking for. So we'll get started. This is the first day I was in Los Angeles when my mom was gonna leave me in the big bad city all by myself. Just to sort of give you perspective where I'm coming from, I moved here in December of 2000. I had a BFA from the University of Illinois, but we didn't have any classes in screenwriting. I hadn't had any internships, but you know, it was a different time. I think it's more common to have internships nowadays, but my dad didn't want me to work for free, so I had no internships. I had spent my last summer out here trying to work doing some PA gigs, and I had worked at Six Flags St. Louis growing up, so I had relatively, useful experience, but nothing in the film and TV industry. No relatives, no industry experience, and some roommates, $5,000. I didn't know how long that was gonna last me. So I started finding some work. These were all temporary, short little jobs, but found my way around. So I did Korean car commercials for Hyundai. Then I was an in-house PA for a commercial production house. I was a PA at the Oscars. I was a page at NBC for 3 months. And then I was a PA on a short-lived sitcom on NBC that was canceled after 9/11. Then I temped various places, one of which was as a corporate PA for Carsey Warner Mandebach. At the time, they had that 70s show on the air. They also have Cosby Show, Roseanne, those kind of things. So I learned a lot there. All of that was just my first year here in Los Angeles. I had something like 7 W-2s when I went to do my taxes. It was pretty crazy. Then I thought, oh, okay, I'm gonna use my theater degree, right? I'm gonna go work on these plays at night for $25 a show while I'm still doing my PA gig during the day. I did a couple of plays. I got bumped up and finally got a producer title. And that's where I got the attention of a writer down the street who asked me to help him, for free of course, to produce the concert that sold this musical called Reefer Madness to Showtime. And in case you're wondering, now we're 3.5 years in. And this musical filmed in Canada, so I could not go with and work on it. But he did make good on his promise to help me out, so he got a job as a writer on Desperate Housewives and got me an interview to become a writer's assistant on that show. So after I'd been here for 5 years, I was the writer's assistant on Desperate Housewives. And while I worked there, I got bumped up to script coordinator. Got my first freelance script after I'd been here for 8 years on a show called Reaper. And then after 9 years, I was working on a show that I truly loved, which was called Friday Night Lights. If you haven't seen it, Netflix, check it out. And 9.5 years after I moved to Los Angeles, I got to touch Tim Riggins, that's landmark day. 11 years after I moved to Los Angeles, on my birthday, I got my first solo on-screen writing credit, which was a pretty cool birthday present. I lay this all out for you so you have a little perspective. I mean, this is just one how I got here story. You'll find people who landed huge gigs as soon as they got to town, or people who are, nieces and nephews of very important people who have a much different path. There are people who've been here for 20 years and are super talented and just haven't hit it yet. So this is just one path, but I think it's sort of helpful to know how you can come from somewhere and get here. But I do find that the faster you pick a path and get on it, the quicker you'll get to your goal. So that's really important. So what I've put together are 25 things I wished that I had known when I was just starting out. They're broken into 3 sections. The first section is called Trying to Get a Job. All right, so number 1 is believe that you will succeed. You need to surround yourself with people who also agree that you will succeed and believe that they're going to succeed. These are my roommates from when I first moved to Los Angeles. I'm still really close with 2 of them. One of them is my manager. I've had a lot of friends who moved back. I had a lot of friends from college who ended up moving out here, And that's okay. You know, there's going to be a wave of people that are going to move back after 2 years. There's going to be a wave of people that are going to move back after 5, after 10. And if at some point it doesn't feel worth it, if at some point it feels like this isn't what you want to do, if you'd rather do something else, there's no shame in that. You have to really believe in yourself if you're going to get all the way through. I've been here almost 15 years, and it's a really tough struggle sometimes, but you have to believe in yourself because there will be days when no one else does. It's cool though when the people who moved here with start to succeed and you can really follow them up. Just in the last couple of years, I've gotten to congratulate a Tony winner and an Emmy winner and an Oscar winner. It's really exciting. The second part is to be specific about what you're looking for. Let's say I meet you somewhere and you make a good impression on me and I want to help you out and you tell me that you want to work in TV comedy. I don't work in TV comedy, but I know plenty of people who do. So let's say I hear that a certain show is looking for a writer's PA. I'm going to pass your information along. But if you met me and just said, hey, I just want a job and I'll take anything, I might not remember you. You might not come to the forefront of my mind. So it's really good to be specific about what you're looking for and be realistic about what you're looking for. I don't care about, you know, this crazy 2-year goal that you want to be a showrunner in 2 years. We all want to be a showrunner in 2 years. It's not going to happen. It's better to have realistic goals, know what is a realistic ask, and be specific about it, because then you'll come to people's minds. Number 3, within the world of writing, it is important at first, at least, to pick one quadrant between features and TV, comedy, and drama. You can go between the two, go between all 4 of them later on, but they're different executives, they're totally different shows, it's different production companies, different agents, everything. And if you really specify and pick one of those 4 quadrants, you'll have an easier time moving forward and getting to know people. So I am a TV drama writer, period. I know the people in TV drama. I don't know the people in feature comedy at all. Number 4, this is a good but stressful one. So you need to befriend an agent's assistant. There are these terrible events called networking events, and they're all over town when you first move here. Well, they're all over town all the time, but you get exposed to them when you first move here. And you're going to want to take a friend, probably from college, maybe a roommate. This is your battle buddy, right? And you're going to go to these events, and you're looking for the people in the suits. If you are not doing a year at agency, which I recommend, I didn't do it, I did the production assistant route to kind of get my foothold in, but you're gonna look for the people who are in the suits, and we're all gonna be at this bar where everybody can not really afford one drink, but that's not what you're there for. You're gonna walk around and you're gonna try and find agents' assistants, because for them, knowledge is currency. So they are going to know about all the jobs. Most of these jobs are not going to be posted online anywhere. They're going to hear about things first because they've got their ear to the phone of their agent, you know, of their boss all day, every day, and they're hearing about all these jobs. They're going to hear about them first. And then conversely, when you get a job, they're going to come back to you for information, right? So I would get a call when I was on Desperate Housewives, hey, can you send over, you know, a list of all the writers and their levels. This isn't confidential information that I'm giving out. I'm not being sneaky about it, but they just knew that I could have the definitive source for that information. So it's a currency situation. You also want to make business cards. Don't get fancy with them. They should just be your name, your cell phone number, your email address. If you're just coming out of college, this is a perfect time to get an adult email address and start clean. Stop using your edu. And don't be BieberLover92 at Yahoo, because I don't want to hire you. And just don't be BieberLover92. It's just don't do that. So another word of advice, when you're coming up with this email address, don't use the year you graduated and don't use the year you were born, because it makes us feel old and it ages you. And at first it might be cute because you think, oh, I'm young and this is cute. But then as you get older, it makes you seem older, and then you'll understand what I'm talking about. So don't use a number, and if you do, make it your like soccer number or the day of the month you were born. But yeah, so you want a business card, you want to find an agent's assistant, preferably you want to find one in the field that you're trying to grow up in. So if you want to do TV drama, you're going to try and find a TV lit agent's assistant. But it's fine, even if they're, you know, talent assistant or something, you just want to get to know these people. You also want to use this assistant to get the UTA job list. I think they come out on Thursdays, at least they used to. It's a quick list of all these jobs that are open. They fill pretty quickly. So if you get the list and a job has been on there for more than like a week or two, it's filled. Don't send your resume to that, but these things do fill quickly. And especially for writer's assistant, writer's PA, those kind of gigs, if you find out about something, you should be able to pull your car to the side of the road. You should have a form letter, already ready to go in your email. You should have your resume in your email as an attachment ready to go. You should be able to send that from the side of the 101 freeway because these things fill really quickly and they'll stop taking people really quickly. Number 5, do your research. So before you're going into any meeting, interview, even coffee, you need to figure out who you're dealing with. This is super easy now because of the internet. So even before I go into a meeting, I'm looking up on Facebook, who do we know in common? Not so that I can go in there and do the who do you know kind of game, but maybe I'll see that their favorite TV show is a lot like the show that I'm going to pitch. Well, then when I go in, I might say that the tone is kind of like this, if it's true. And then it's this feeling of symbiosis. It's this feeling that we're all in this together. And what you're trying to do in any of these situations, meetings, interviews, anything, is to get people to like you. And it's just a quick way to get people to like you. If there's an article that they did, a couple months ago, read it. You don't have to go tell them you read the article, but it just gives you a leg up on what you're doing. This is a good one. So there is enough success for everyone. I know it's really hard when you're trying to get a job and you and your friend are up for the same job, because at first that'll happen a lot. And then your friend gets the job and it totally sucks. But 2 things are going to happen. 1, your friend is no longer competing with you for jobs, which is awesome. And 2, because they're now working, any job leads they get, hopefully they're going to pass along to you. So as hard as it is to be happy for them, go ahead and be happy for your friend, because working friends are better resources. Number 7, be prepared for a magical opportunity to come your way. So you're going to be out somewhere, you're going to meet somebody, and someone is going to offer to watch something you've created, read something you've written. You have to be ready to go. You have to be able to not necessarily send it to them right then and there, but you need to be able to send it to them the next day. Don't say, I'm going to take the weekend. Don't tell somebody, yeah, I've got the script and it's almost done. If you're on page 35, you're not almost done, and there's no way that spending your entire weekend without sleeping, binging, is going to try and get them a finished product that they're going to want to see. You need to have it ready to go at all times so that you have something to show somebody at any given time and that you're ready to jump on that opportunity. So I got my first PA job because I talked to the right stranger while sitting in the hall waiting for a screening of Moulin Rouge to start. I got my first writer's assistant job as a direct result of being a third wheel on a date. I got my first staff job by getting involved with the WGA. But when each of these opportunities presented themselves, I was ready. I had my resume current and I brought it without being asked. I accepted responsibility far beyond my knowledge, and I just figured it out. I had the perfect samples ready to go, and I never gave up. The stars will all line up, but if you miss your window, you will regret it for years to come. So part 2, once you have a job. Number 8, celebrate the small victories. It is a long haul, and have a cocktail. Especially if you have friends who are actors, it's important to celebrate the small victories for them. Them getting an audition is a really big deal. They probably won't get the job at first, but your first network show audition, that's a really big deal. Go ahead and have a cocktail. Do a cartwheel that day. You got a big interview, but you didn't get the job. That's awesome. Go ahead and celebrate, because otherwise it's just sad if you only celebrate the big stuff you're only looking forward. Number 9, contact people with good news. So don't just send emails to people when you're looking for a job. I understand the notion, right? So you have this job and it lasts for 3 months and then it ends and you're like, crap, I need a new job. And so I'm gonna reach out to all the people who I've met and tell them like, hey, I'm looking for a new job and I'm specific about what I'm looking for, but not too specific, but let me know. And then the only time they ever hear from you is, I need a job, I need something, I need something, I need something, I need something. Try to remember to email people when you have good news or just to say hi. There's nothing like looking through a stack of emails in the morning and all these people need things from you, and somebody's just saying hi. Hi, I just want to let you know, I got this job over here and I'm doing this, that, and the other. I'm not asking anything of you. I'm not asking you to watch anything. I'm not asking you to call anybody for me. Just hi, how you doing? I'm all right. Then the next time that you email them asking for a job recommendation or asking them to keep an eye out for you, you don't seem like this needy person. Also, I've kept records of every meeting I've ever been on and every writer I've ever worked with, and it's invaluable as I've changed from different agencies, different management companies. I can walk in and I can hand them this spreadsheet and their jaw always drops. Nobody else does this apparently. So do this, write down who you worked with, where you worked with them. If they've read a sample of yours, write down that they've read a sample of yours. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It just helps them know when things are coming through, who you know. It helps you remember too, all in one place, all the meetings you've been on. And write down a little bit about how the meeting went. Even if it was just coffee, what did you learn about them? They really love golden retrievers. Cool, write it down. I don't know, you never know when it'll come back. Number 10, be you would be the best version of you, right? So it's kind of like the online dating analogy. We come out of college, and even if you're a little further out into life, the entertainment industry attracts eccentric personalities, and that's good. And there are a lot of people at the top that have eccentric personalities and blue hair, and that's cool. But it shouldn't be disruptive, and it shouldn't be crazy, and we don't need to see how crazy you are. Don't change who you are, don't totally be a chameleon, but when I was working on a certain show, everybody watched The Daily Show, and I didn't watch The Daily Show yet, and I started watching it and I liked it, and then I had something to talk to them about. I also try and take a cue from the showrunner. How do they dress every day? Is this somebody who, I've had one showrunner that pretty much wore t-shirt and jeans, and I've had my last showrunner wore a suit coat, button-down shirt, suit coat every day. And, I dressed up a little more to go work with the latter. Number 11 is know your staff. So what I like to do when I got on a different show is, I'd look up who were all these people, where had they worked before, had any of them worked together before, so that I could see who was kind of connected, what could I find out about them. And then the kitchen is always where these conversations end up happening, because we all have to meet in the kitchen, and it's a lot about food. And you just start talking to them, and you'll find out who you kind of click with. You'll find out who you kind of appreciate, who's more talkative, who's kind of more standoffish. I find that writers who were themselves assistants tend to be a little more open to talking to assistants, and you can start to ask them questions. Maybe if you feel comfortable down the road, they could offer to read something of yours. Maybe you could ask them to read something of theirs, but say no pressure at all. The other thing I did is when I was a script coordinator, I started offering to coordinate for these people, these writers on their own projects. You could do the same thing. If you're a writer's PA, you could say, hey, I know you have a development deal. I don't know if you're developing anything, but if you're ever working on the weekend and it would just be helpful for you to have somebody come take notes. I'd like to learn how to do that because I'm trying to move up to writer's assistant. So, I'd love to volunteer my time and find out. Now, if you go do that, first of all, that's going to blow their minds that you're willing to do that. You go do it, you get that experience. The next year, let's say the writer's assistant gets bumped up or leaves the show, you're in prime position to take that job. Or if this pilot this person is developing goes, you're in prime position to take the job as the writer's assistant or to become their assistant on a new show. So make yourself useful. I would coordinate the pilots for the writers. They started paying me. I didn't ask for it. They would just, throw me some money. And then it was great. I knew what they were writing. I knew what their passion was, and they knew who I was outside of just the show we were working on. So it's a really good opportunity to get to know people. Bring cookies to work, because who doesn't like cookies, right? So there's much ado about food. I didn't quite understand this when I was a PA. I thought, wow, everybody gets really bent out of shape when the dressing's not on the side and the avocado's not sliced thinly. So don't get to, you hopefully don't have a staff that is crappy about their complaining about free food that's being brought to their face, and hopefully that they'll say thank you. If they don't, just don't keep working with that person. But it's what it is. Here's what it is, though. You're sitting all day, and you're trying to think of ideas, and there are difficult personalities or maybe even not difficult personalities, and all you can think about at some point is food's coming, food's coming, food's coming. And then when it comes, there is sort of an expectation on it, and it's silly, and I definitely promised myself that when I became a writer, I would always say thank you, and I would not complain about anything, and I didn't. But I now understand where the instinct comes from. The first thing in the morning, they're going to pass around a menu and everybody's going to write down what they want, and there's a whole thing, and where are we ordering from today, and blah, 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 blah. Just know going in that food is an ordeal. You're going to have to go pick up the lunch in your car, and the soup's going to spill, and you're going to forget something, and somebody's going to literally think that you should not eat your food and go back to the restaurant to get the gazpacho that they're going to have 3 sips of. But look, it is what it is, and it's free for you too, so you do what you can. Do not fall in the trap of grocery shopping. They're going to say, I want healthy food, and you're not going to know what that means, because healthy means, I don't know, what's the fat of the week? Are we doing gluten-free? Are we vegan? Or whatever. Just tell them to write down exactly what they want and where it comes from, and better yet, tell them to bring the empty container from home. That way, you can't go wrong. Okay, number 13, don't be an asshole. Just don't. People are going to be assholes around you. It's going to be very tempting. It's very stressful situations. We work very long hours to not cure cancer. People get super, super bent out of shape about really silly stuff. Do not get sucked down into the sewers. Number 14, be patient but not complacent. So keep in mind, I like to do like a 5-year goal, a 10-year goal, and it's okay if you don't meet it on that goal, on that timeline, but it's important to kind of know where you're going, right? So when you are a production assistant, you want to be a good production assistant. You want to show up, get there, do the things, do them correctly, pay attention, be smart about it, be proactive. But you don't want to be like the best little eager beaver production assistant that ever was, because good production assistants are hard to find. And some people, when they're hiring on the next season or on the next show, are going to go, well, we've got a production assistant. You need to know where you're going. You need to know what the next step is. So you need to make an interest. You need to take an interest in being a writer's assistant or whatever. I used to always leave on the corner of my desk, face up, a script I was writing with the title page on it. Just, you know, such and such, written by Marlana Hope. I didn't make any mention of it, but it was always on the corner of my desk because I wanted subliminally or right out in the open, I wanted everybody to know that I'm a writer. I'm on a path to becoming a writer. So don't be the best martyr, throw yourself down on the pavement. Be a really good whatever you are. And then goal is to move up to the next thing. And keep trying to move to the type of show that's gonna hire you. You know, the type of writing, you know, my first 2 shows I was on were dramedies, and I'm not a dramedy writer, I'm a drama writer. So I knew I had to kick over to a straight drama show. And I made a list of the shows I wanted to work on, because at that point I was an in-demand script coordinator, and I was just trying to kind of will it to happen. And sure enough, I got my number 3 choice. Okay, so 15, fail miserably, keep moving. It's gonna happen, you're gonna get fired. It might be your fault, it might not be your fault. It might be because the person who hired you is getting fired and everybody in that camp gets kicked out. It might be that the show's being canceled and everybody's out. But it's okay. Don't be an asshole and fail, and you'll be okay. People will move on to new shows. You'll move on to new shows. Every time a show gets canceled, your contacts explode exponentially because all those people go somewhere else. If you end up on a show that runs for 10 years, you're keep trying to move up, and hopefully you get the opportunity to move up. But some showrunners don't promote from within, and you can just be the best little, you know, writer's assistant for 10 years. Maybe you get a freelance script, but after 10 years, you only know those 8 writers. And whereas somebody who's been on shows that have been canceled or things that have gone awry, the other person knows 100 writers. So it's okay. It's gonna happen. It's okay. You'll live. Okay, so part 3, in your free time. So this is the most important thing. You have to write something new every year, without exception. I don't care if that's the year that your childhood dog died. I don't care if that's the year that you're working on a show. I don't care if that's the year that you didn't, you know, that you were unemployed for 8 months. You have to write something new every single year, because you're gonna want to have something ready when you're gonna send it out, and you want something new. And then you're gonna have this whole little stable of horses, right? So whatever show comes up, you can go, oh, I've got a horse for that. I've got a script for that. There's an app for that. So I now have, gosh, like 12 different things. I don't use 5 of them, But my manager has this whole group of scripts, and whatever comes up, they can send the appropriate script. And that's what got me my job on Army Wives. Was I happened to have a script that was about a soldier, and I didn't write it to get staffed on Army Wives, but boy did it come in handy when Army Wives came a-calling. And then I had another script that happened to be about social workers in the foster care system, and they were doing a storyline in that arena when I was being hired on Army Wives. So I just happened to have the two perfect samples, and that was because I wrote something new every single year. And especially when, once you're a writer, once you've gotten there, a lot of people stop writing their own stuff, and then the show goes down, and then their agents are like, how am I supposed to get you another job? You haven't written anything since 1997. And you're like, oh man, that's a true story. So you want to write something new? Okay, millennials, we're going to watch TV, and we're going to watch it on a TV. And I know that this is crazy, but if we want to keep TV a thing, we have to watch it. Now, it doesn't mean we can't also watch on our iPads, and we can't also watch on our phones, and we can't also watch on our laptops, and we can't also watch on our, I don't know, probably our forearm in the near future. But, you know, watch some things on TV. And the biggest thing, though, is no pirates. Arg, no pirates, no pirating. Because if you're a cord cutter, you're a cord cutter, and you don't get the content. And if you do have the content, you do have the content. There's no pirating. Because someday, when you're in the Writers Guild, you get these green envelopes, and they're residual checks. And it's really exciting to open your mail and get a green envelope, which is a residual check. And pirates are cutting into my residual check, so no pirates. Also, it's illegal, and it's just stupid. You can't go into this thing that we're trying to do and then take a dump on it. You gotta stick with it. Okay, read and learn about industry news. So, okay, when I moved here, there was no Google and there was no Facebook, so there's no whining about this. It's easy. You're gonna want to put Deadline Hollywood on your Facebook feed. You're gonna want to peruse Variety every once in a while. You can put them on your Facebook feed too. I just have Deadline on there. And at first it's not going to make much sense because you're not going to know all the people's names. You're just going to know kind of the actors' names. And you're like, I don't care. But just leave it there. Click on stuff every once in a while. And then occasionally you'll start to kind of put it together. Like when I first moved here, I put together like, oh, a lot of movies I like are by Focus Features. Cool, right? And then, oh, you know, Shonda Rhimes, she's got a bunch of cool stuff that I really like. But if you go back, Shonda Rhimes wrote Crossroads, the Britney Spears movie, before Grey's Anatomy. So it's another lesson in you never know who's going to be who in another couple years. But it's good to kind of start to know people's names. So just become aware of it. Not the Us Weekly tabloidy entertainment news crap, the actual people who are doing the stuff. Okay, number 19, do table reads. This is super fun. So actors love to act, and when actors first move here, they are auditioning, if they're lucky, for either crap movies that are not as well written as whatever you wrote, I guarantee, because you're an awesome writer, I just know it. And then they're also auditioning for these little 2-line co-star parts. And they get all dressed up, and they drive across town in traffic, and they go in, and they do 2 lines, and they leave, and they don't get the part, and it's sad. But these are trained actors who went and like got degrees and stuff. So that you are going to allow them to play the lead is super cool. You're just gonna buy a bag of chips and a couple 2 liters of soda, maybe a bottle of wine, as evidenced by this picture. But don't get too drunk because you want to remember it. You're gonna make copies of the script. You're gonna invite all your actor friends. You're gonna sit around in your living room and you're gonna read it out loud. And it's gonna be really awesome. And then afterward, they're gonna have some great notes and they're gonna have some really stupid notes, but you say thank you anyway. And then you go on again. And every time I like to use different actors. And I started asking people who were like really good, like working actors who I'd met, and they want to do these things too. So I've done one for every single script. I've done one in different locations. One of my favorite things to do. Okay, do not throw all of your time, energy, and money into a web series, but do create stuff. So yes, there are all the stories, and we always talk about the exception, not the rule, of the person who did the thing, that got the thing, But when you first get here, you are still sort of developing your taste. You are still sort of developing your craft. Do not go Kickstarter and ask your grandma and your aunt and your uncle for hundreds of dollars. to make your movie that in 2 years you're not going to want to show anybody anymore. Because you have an iPhone, frankly, and it can shoot some cool stuff on it. So if you have toys that you can play with them. If you have other friends who have bilked their relatives for stuff, go ahead and work on their stuff. But do not bilk your relatives and all your friends for money to make stuff, because I'm going to be way more impressed if you send me something and it's pretty good and you shot it on an iPhone than if it's kind of good and you spent $40,000 on it. I'm going to be more impressed with the iPhone thing, because that means you're working smarter, not harder. Also, just don't send crap out. Don't make a bunch of stuff. Here's the way to think about the content you're making. It's a tool, not a product, especially in the world of television. It's unlikely, it's impossible that anything that you shoot is going to see the light of day on NBC. But if you shoot something really cool, it could get you a meeting to sell something to NBC or to work on something with NBC. So it's not a product, it's a tool. Okay, when you first graduate, you don't, and even, like the first few years, you don't have to worry about getting an agent or a manager. I see a lot of people who make this like the first step. The thing is, the agent or manager is not going to get you an assistant's job. They're not even going to read your material for an assistant job. The things you need to know are how to work a multi-line phone system, how to transfer and hold calls, what is rolling calls, how to do coverage on scripts, all these things that are really important skills that you need for these, first few jobs. And then you'll meet an agent or a manager who might want to take you on, and they're going to be at a smaller company, and they're practicing what they're doing, and they may not really get you out there, but that's okay, because you're practicing working with an agent or a manager. Let them read your stuff, ask them to give you notes, work on the process of getting notes. That is a really difficult thing to hear and feel, that like, oh, they're attacking my soul. No, they're just attacking page 7. It's really okay. So get in the practice of every time you hear a note, no matter where it comes from, no matter how crazy it is, the first words out of your mouth should be affirmative in some way. Yes, thank you, okay, I'll take a look at it. Whatever it is, even if it's terrible, even if you've already done that version and it doesn't work, you can say to them, you know what, I had the same idea. We're totally on the same page. It's such a good idea. The problem is when I tried it, I blah, blah, blah. But because we're both having the same idea, I'm going to take another look at that and see if maybe there's something there, right? A lot of times that's where some of the best notes have come from, is when I thought it was a negative note. I thought I was going to dismiss it at first. I went ahead and took a look at it, and sometimes there's something under there. What you're looking for is the spirit of the note. Sometimes people can't always articulate, and you know the material better than anybody else does. But if you get in the habit of saying, we'll take a look at it, which is even how we would handle the executives on Army Wives, often, there's something there. The spirit of the note, what's underneath it, you'll find, and that's what you need to address, and that's what you're looking for. Nobody's going to steal your idea. Surprise. Let anybody who's willing to read your work read your work. If you are a paranoid person by nature, they're good drugs for that. No. You can do one of two things. You can register your script with the WGA, which is a good idea. I think it's like $10, maybe $20 for non-members. But you can print out a copy of it, mail it to yourself. It's called a poor person's copyright. Don't open it. That's how you have to not open it. It has the date on it, but you have to know what version's in there. But nowadays, everything's time-stamped. Everything has emails and date codes and blah, 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 besides the fact that no one's going to steal your idea. So you're going to have this script, and you're going to send it to like 5 people, and then in the fall, Fox is totally going to steal your idea and put it on the air, and you're going to start calling lawyers and figure out how you can, make $1 billion off of this. The problem is they didn't steal your idea. The problem is we're all breathing the same air, and somebody else came up with the same idea, which just means you're on the right track. It means you came up with the same idea that Fox came up with. They just are Fox, or whoever brought it to Fox is farther ahead than you and got it on the air. Okay, so if somebody offers to read your script, this is awesome. And you're going to do a little cartwheel inside, you're going to go get ice cream because we're going to celebrate the small moments, and then you're going to get prepared to wait. Because people are busy, and sometimes people are just flaky, and sometimes people didn't really mean it in the first place. But you can go ahead and dismiss the idea that they read it, hate it, and don't know how to tell you. That's the least likely option of what's going on. The most likely option is they totally forgot that they promised to read your script. The second most likely option is they remembered, they just haven't gotten to it yet, and they have the best of intentions, right? So in like 3 to 4 weeks, you're gonna email back and you're gonna say, hey, just checking in. You know, I sent you the script. I hope you're well. No pressure. Just want to see if you'd gotten a chance to read it. Thanks again for the offer. They either will or will not send you an email that sounds something like, oh gosh, I'm so sorry. Totally slipped my mind. Putting it on the top of the virtual iPad stack for the weekend. And then maybe they get back to you, maybe they don't. Maybe they did read it, and maybe they just forgot to get back to you about it, which is weird. It's happened a couple times, and I keep thinking, you went through the trouble to read it. You didn't, okay. So you're gonna try one more. You're gonna check in once at like 3 to 4 weeks. You're gonna check in once at like 6 weeks. After that, you're gonna let it go. You see that person again, you absolve them of the guilt of not having read your script. They might not even remember that they promised to read your script, but you're not gonna bring it up. If you pass like the 2-month mark, let it go. Okay, number 24, swim with the stream. So TV continues to evolve and change, and that's okay, and that's awesome. And when I first got here, you know, there were just the networks, and then there started being the, you know, small cable outlets that were doing some scripted stuff, and then, you know, premium cable got bigger, and then all these online platforms and all the Netflix and the Hulu and whatever. I mean, if you'd told me that the Emmys would be dominated by Netflix, it would have laughed at you. A, I would have said, what's Netflix? And then B, I would have laughed at you. But what's important is you got to go with it, right? You can't get stuck. You can't be defiant about things. And you really have to give your college professors a break, because when whatever they're telling you was the information that was true when they last worked professionally. So if they left the industry 4 or 5 years ago to go teach, and they're teaching you what it was 4 or 5 years ago, it's not their fault. They just are teaching you something that is outdated, and you need to accept that that's okay. For instance, the biggest thing is spec scripts versus original pilots. So a few years ago, everybody was supposed to be writing spec scripts. That's all we wanted, was a spec script of an existing TV show. And then everybody, I think, got tired of reading Mad Men specs and Simpsons specs, and then they started to want to read original pilots. When I first moved here, you wouldn't dare write an original pilot. That was presumptuous. That was only for the top people who were developing, because only a handful of people were developing, because there were only a handful of places that wanted developed material. Nowadays, my old boss used to say they used to want to make sure that you could write like everybody else. You could take a set of existing characters, set of existing circumstances, and write like everybody else. Now they want to make sure you can write like nobody else. And that's really what it is. So you got to think about, when I'm writing these pilots, when I'm writing this original work, what is my voice? What am I trying to say? If I'm trying to encapsulate, you know, who I am in this one sample, I really want to go for it and jump off the page and be, you know, interesting. The only reason to really have spec scripts anymore is for these diversity programs and these other, you know, new writer programs. Warner Brothers, ABC, NBC, CBS, they all have one. And those programs still take spec scripts. I think it's something to do with legalities of, you know, you've submitted your idea, and then, again, people think they've stolen your idea. I wouldn't be surprised if that went by the wayside, but as of right now, they still want spec scripts for programs and original pilots for staffing. And I don't even have an original pilot, or I don't even have a spec script anymore. The last one I wrote was a Mad Men, and I wrote it after season 2. So number 25 is get right with your shit. This is hard. Living here is hard. Moving across the country from your family, or across the world, wherever you're watching this, is hard. And you really need to kind of get things together. So you're gonna have to maintain a relationship with your family or your whoever via the phone, and you're gonna have to be good about that. You're gonna have to return phone calls. And if you're coming out of college and you're trying to make it on your own, you've got to figure out your finances such that you can live. How many roommates do you need? How far away do you need to live? In LA, you really do need a car, but you know, what's the cheapest car you can get that's not gonna break down on you? Or, you know, does it make sense to get something nicer because it's not going to break down on you and you're going to be driving around a lot as a PA. If your parents are paying for stuff, talk to them about it. Figure out what they're paying for and how much it costs, so that someday when you're taking it over, you know what that dollar amount is. If you just kind of like la la la, it's gonna come up someday, and then you don't know, and then they're gonna just get mad and like drop you on your rear, and then what are you gonna do? But work it out. Like, especially being a writer, our past is present, our past is good fodder. Every time I go home, I get hilarious stories to come back with, but it's important to kind of sort it out. It's difficult, especially if you come from a family that has very sort of traditional set ways of doing things. They have very traditional jobs, because it's hard to explain to them that there's no recruiter coming to your college to offer you, there's no hiring fair, there's no corporate ladder, there is no this, then this, then this. You got to make your own way, and you got to wake up. The analogy I use is that dice game Yahtzee, right? So you got 5 dice and each of them has 6 sides. You get to wake up every single morning and roll the 5 dice one time. And eventually you're going to roll Yahtzee. It just is mathematically, it just is. And so you just have to keep putting one foot in front of the other. And you're going to miss things, people are going to they're going to start getting married right out of high school, right out of college, depending on where you're from. And they're cheap, dumb weddings, so it's fine. You're gonna miss them, and they might be upset, but you can't afford to go, and that's okay. You might miss a family holiday. You might miss your niece's first birthday. You might go home for, Christmas or Hanukkah, but miss Thanksgiving one year, and that's okay. You'll find other friends here who are in the same boat. You'll have, chosen friends, family. It's all right, because in the end, if this is what you want to do, if this is really what you want to pursue, there is no other option. It's all worth it, because, someday when you get everything together, you will get to go, surprise your mom on her 60th birthday, or make a special trip for somebody's recital or graduation, and it's really cool. And that's my office. That was me filming one of the last episodes of Army Wives. And what we get to do is pretty cool. And if we wanted to be accountants, we could be accountants and own houses, and you'll go back home, and maybe your siblings or maybe your friends, they'll start to move up really quickly. They'll get married and have houses and have babies and everything really quickly, and then about 10 years out, they start getting really bored and your life starts taking off, and it's all worth it. So you just got to stick with it. And if it all works out, which if you have the determination to get it done, it will, it's pretty cool. So that's it. I hope this has been helpful. I hope that some of these things are good information for you. And like I said, take everything with a grain of salt. This could all be outdated and moot tomorrow. And this is just one example. This is just one path, but it's mine, and I had a pretty good time. Thank you.